Hello everyone. Benton here again, and today we're going to talk about Les Paul guitars, and more specifically, my Les Paul guitars, and also why it's my favorite guitar, the Les Paul guitar. Let's start at the beginning. My brother is 16 years older than I am, and he had a Les Paul before I was even born. He had a Gibson Les Paul Custom. I think it's around an 81 or 82 model. It's an 82 model, I think. And growing up, my big brother always played a Gibson Les Paul, so it was sort of just burnt into my mind that that's what a guitar was. It looked like a Gibson Les Paul. I didn't know what a Gibson Les Paul was. I just kind of knew what a guitar was. I'm a little kid, a little toddler running around. He's playing a Gibson Les Paul, and I think that plays a big role into why I love the Les Paul so much, was watching him play his. And he had a Les Paul Custom, the black one with the gold hardware, super gaudy, it's just wham bam in your face, it's classy looking. And fast forward, I started playing guitar. I stuck with playing the guitar when I was 14, and after a couple of years, when I'm 16, my father tells me, he told me he'd buy me any guitar I wanted as long as it was either a Gibson or a Fender. The truth is I really only had one choice. So let's start with what I chose. I chose a Gibson Les Paul Classic. Here it is. I remember when I ordered it, this finish was called the Vintage Sunburst, or Vintage, what was it called? Yeah, it was called Vintage Sunburst. It looks like a tobacco burst if you ask me. But anyway, this has the open coil humbuckers. They're not covered. It has the green. The whole idea on this guitar was like a 60s vibe. And it even, it might be hard to get it on the camera, but on the pick guard, it even says 1960 on it. Because at the time, and what year would this have been? 2004? I think I got this the summer of 2004. This was a 1960s style Gibson Les Paul. It has a slim neck, a slim 60s neck profile. It has these vintage tuners on it, made in the USA. I had a lot of great times playing this guitar, still have great times playing this guitar. This guitar will always hold sentimental value to me because my father got it for me when I was 16. I mean, that's a big deal, okay? It's a big deal. Playing a couple of years on, I was playing a PV Nitro, so after playing a couple of years on a PV Nitro to get a Les Paul was just, you're on top of the world. You're 16 years old, you get a brand new Gibson Les Paul, you're on top of the world. I mean, what more else is there to say? Great sounding guitar, great playing guitar. It will always have sentimental value. And I love it. I love my father for it, and I love my brother for getting me into Les Pauls, even though he didn't really even know about it. So now let's fast forward roughly 10 years from then, 10 or 11 years, I guess about 11 years, when it was in 2015, in December of 2015. And in 2015, the Gibson models, a lot of people were not happy with Gibson with their 2015 lineup because they had like a titanium nut, and they had that automatic tuning system. I don't even remember what that's called, but that automatic tuning system on the back of the headstock, which is kind of neat or whatever, but a lot of people are like, no, we want vintage gear, we want vintage specs. And Gibson had a lot of hate in 2015 because of the way they spec'd those guitars. And a G-Force, it was called the G-Force tuning system. So, I'm kind of, I have a little money in my pocket, I've worked, I'm in my late 20s, and I can afford to buy a Gibson Les Paul myself, and I don't want that model. I don't hate that model, whatever, that's its own thing, but I would not have bought that model. I did not buy that model. I don't want that model. So what I did, I was just browsing around, just with my fingers crossed, hoping that maybe next year, you know, maybe I'll have to wait till next year for them to come out with a new lineup. But I found they did a limited run, a limited edition, like a golden pearl finish, and it did not have the titanium nut. It has what they use now. It's not bone, but it's still a synthetic material. I don't know what it is. I should have researched what it is. Maybe right here, right here, right here, right here. That's what it is. That's the material that it's made out of. So, oh, let me just grab it. Here we go. This is the golden pearl one. It's a 2015 model. It came out with gold hardware, gold speed knobs. Love this guitar, right? I hope that the finish pops. It's like a sparkly, it's not really sparkly, but it has like a pop finish, a golden pearl. It's not a true gold top because they do that sort of flaky golden pop thing. But this guitar, I found it, and I forget how much it was running for, but I think I ordered this from American Musical Supply. But whatever price it was, when I ordered it, it had gone on sale for like $300, like $300 off the original price. You know, this was a year when Gibson, everyone hated Gibson, even the Gibson fanboys like myself, which I'm not as hardcore as a lot of Gibson fanboys. I do love the guitar, but I'm not as hardcore as a lot of Gibson Les Paul fanboys are. But they hated, everyone hated Gibson, even Gibson fans hated Gibson, okay? So I pulled the trigger on this one, bought it for myself as sort of a Christmas present, and this thing is monster, okay? It has Grover locking tuners on it, has Burstbucker Pro pickups in it, and these are up there with some of the best pickups, some of the best sounding pickups I've ever played, okay? These sound great. This is a great guitar. Oh, and this guitar, it also has the push-pull knobs. These push-pull knobs split the humbuckers to single coils. You have an out-of-phase option. And I believe on this one, yeah, on this one, when you pull this knob, it's a blow switch for the bridge pickup. You know, the bridge pickup straight to the output, full blast. All of the guitars that I buy, even if I buy them and spend quite a bit of cash on them, for kind of a collector's perspective, I still want it to play and sound well. Because if it doesn't play well, if you don't enjoy playing it, then that collector's stuff is just, there's no point for that for me. So to have both of those qualities, that's what I'm all about. I want one that I love playing, I love to look at, I want to grab it, pick it up, play it, and if it holds its value and it can become a collector's item potentially, then that's just great. That's even awesome because your money, that's money well spent. So let's move on to the next guitar. So one day I was in a guitar store playing different tube amps, little sort of 5-watt, low wattage tube amps, and there was a guitar on the wall that caught my eye, and I grabbed it to plug into the amp because my intention was to get the amp. I didn't have a guitar. I didn't bring a guitar with me to the guitar store, so I grabbed a guitar off the wall and fell in love with the guitar. And the guitar was this. Les Paul Custom. Not a Gibson though, an Epiphone. This thing was used. I grabbed it off of the used wall and plugged it into the amp. It was a Marshall Origin 5. I ended up walking out with this and the amp both because I fell in love with this guitar playing it through that Marshall amp. I went in there to buy an amp and bought an amp and a guitar. I've always had a thing for customs. My brother, I told you, my brother had a black Gibson Les Paul Custom. He still has it. And I've always wanted to get a white one, and for reasons I haven't gotten one, mainly because of using rich light on the fretboard. I don't want to get into all that right now. I think that for 2019 they're going to start using ebony on the fretboards again in the Gibson range, but that's for a different video. So that's why I grabbed this one off of the wall, because I've always liked white Gibson Les Paul Customs, the Randy Rhoads guitars. And something seemed different about this guitar and I couldn't quite place it, but I finally figured it out, and it's not all white. It has black sides and back, so it's really like a black Gibson Les Paul Custom that's painted white on the front, right? Okay, so after I buy it, I start researching it, and this is called like a Gibson, or Epiphone, not Gibson, it's an Epiphone. This is called an Epiphone, like a Tuxedo model, or Blackback. It's kind of like AKA Blackback, but it's a Tuxedo model. And there's a cool story behind all of that that I'm not going to get into right now. But Les Paul Custom, and I don't know how much this means in the world of Epiphone, but see that little stick, or see that little emblem on the back? What's it say? Limited edition custom shop. So limited edition custom shop. I don't know if an Epiphone Les Paul like this will ever be a collector's item, but I didn't buy it for that. I ended up paying $400 for this. It was used. This thing sounds great. It plays great, sounds great for $400. I can take it anywhere and not be afraid of dinging it. Not be super heartbroken if someone else like steals it or some crazy, you know, worst case scenario, something happens to this guitar. Yeah, it's gonna suck, but it's not gonna suck nearly as bad as if it were that gold top or that Les Paul Classic that I have, okay? So this is kind of my beater Les Paul. You know, I can get all the benefits of a Les Paul style guitar and not really worry about anything really bad happening to it. Now let's move on to the fourth and final Les Paul. So this last Les Paul that I have to show you, I'd say it's my pride and joy, okay? It marks a time in my life where I could afford a custom shop guitar. I had always had this kind of, you know, is a custom shop for that kind of money, is it really that much better than a standard? And you really don't know the answer to that until you go and play those guitars yourself and actually have a chance to A/B them side by side. I did that. It was still pricey, but I got to be pretty good friends with a guy at this particular music store. It worked out for me where I didn't have to pay. I still paid quite a bit for this guitar, but it wasn't as outrageous of a price as it was initially. But let's just have a look at it. what this is a 1959 Gibson Les Paul reissue. But not only is it that, it is a copy of Rick Nielsen's 1959 guitar. It's not an exact copy because it doesn't have all the relicking. It's like what his would be if it was new. This is a Rick Nielsen guitar. Like, this is branded and marketed from Gibson. This is officially a copy of his guitar, like new. You know, his is going to have some scratches and belt buckle scratches, whatever. It has the little relicking done to his. And they make a tier like that. This one's not in that tier. This one's like if it was new without the relicking. This has a 59 neck. Everything, all the parts are period correct. And I know I just said that that gold top has some of the best humbuckers I've ever played in a guitar. Well, if I ever played any better humbuckers, they'd be in this guitar. I figure this is the closest I'll ever get to owning a true 1959 guitar. It's handmade with period correct components and it has custom pickups in it. I love this guitar. I love the finish. I love everything about this guitar. So obviously I love Gibson Les Pauls, but as you heard in the beginning, it stems from a combination of being iconic in a way, like seeing my brother play it, made it bigger than life, and it sort of gave me an imprint of that is a guitar, that is the quintessential guitar. Then, when I started playing, a Gibson Les Paul was the first nice guitar that I had, and that's what I got used to playing. And I think that that plays a huge role in our preferences for which guitars we like. You can get a lot of hate like Gibson Les Paul versus Fender, versus Fender Strat or Fender Tele. That people go back and forth on this. I really truly believe that that all comes down to your own personal story. Because I don't hate Fenders and I don't hate Telecasters. I don't hate Strats. I own a Strat and I own a Telecaster. I like them both. I like different guitars for different reasons. I have a personal bias towards Gibson Les Pauls because of the way I came up. If you enjoy playing guitar, we're all on the same team. Gibson, Fender, PRS, Ibanez, Jackson, whatever. Okay? Like us as players, that's what I am. I just sit in my bedroom playing guitar. I don't go on gigs. I don't play in a band. I just sit in my bedroom just jamming out playing guitars. I'm not going to get all riled up trying to convince you that this guitar is better than that guitar. We're all on the same team, okay? Whatever kind of guitar you play, we're all on the same team, okay? We're all guitarists, okay? So I guess I just said that so no one took me the wrong way and think that like I was initially trying to be a little cheeky, like being a Gibson Les Paul fanboy or whatever. I'm not that hardcore, okay? I'm not running around like posting comments or going on message boards saying Fender sucks, whatever, okay? Like, we're all on the same team, okay? And this is my Les Paul collection. I love them, and in this video I guess I'm kind of getting a little bit of a chance to show them off. But really the main point that I want to drive home, it all comes down to preference, okay? And there are different things that can account for preference, okay? Maybe you saw Jimmy Page play a Gibson Les Paul, and he's rocking it, and that's just emblazoned into your mind, as like, that's the quintessential guitar and that's the sound. And then you go and get one and you play it, and you'd only been playing like some $100 or $200 or $300 guitar or whatever, and now you're playing a Gibson Les Paul, you're like, oh wow, this is the best guitar. And then that stuff gets burnt into your brain, and that's why you love that guitar. Or, you know, you see Stevie Ray Vaughan playing a Strat, same thing happens. You playing this sort of budget guitar, and then you go play a Strat, and you're like, oh, I gotta have a Strat now, okay? You never even thought to play a Strat until you saw these people playing these guitars, okay? Like, we all had a time when we didn't know what a guitar was. And then we saw someone playing a guitar, and then we saw someone playing a guitar well. And that made us like, oh, I'm going to try that guitar. And I really, truly believe that our preferences on guitars, this shouldn't be some profound thing I'm saying, but it all comes down to your life experiences, the way you perceived the guitar, who you saw playing them, the people, your favorite guitarist versus the first like nice guitars that you played, then the style of those guitars. I'm a humbucker person. I love humbuckers, but every guitar I've ever played, I shouldn't say all the guitars I played for the first X amount of years of me playing all had humbuckers. So I got used to the way humbuckers responded, and the whole sound and shaping, tweaking the amp, everything humbucker related. And it's not that big a deal. I can grab a Strat or a Tele with single coils and get a sound that I like, but I'm just used to humbuckers, and I prefer humbuckers, okay? At times, I prefer single coils, okay? The moral of the story, what I'm here to drive home, is we're all on team guitar, okay? Whatever kind of guitar you have, we're all on team guitar. And it's fun to talk about. It's fun, I get it. Some of us have fun sort of arguing, you know, like making the arguments, making our cases, and enjoy pretending that we're some kind of lawyers or, you know, on some sort of debate team or whatever. But it all comes down to preference, okay? It all comes down, it's just simply preference. Okay, if you liked any of the guitars you saw, I am going to be doing follow-up videos on each of these guitars. I'm just going to give little rundowns, reviews. It'll be like what you just saw, but I'll expand a bit more on the stories, on how I got them, but it's mostly going to be basically like a review of each guitar, so a little bit more in-depth review. So if you're interested in learning about any of these guitars, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out. Take it easy, guys. Have a nice day. And don't get in any flame wars over Fender versus Gibson. But if you do, choose Gibson.